Hey folks, Jonathan tells me we're live. I don't know how we're live. I don't see the red light on that camera, but I'm gonna believe him. He's never let me down yet. And why would he let me down today? So I want to thank you all for it's episode 97 of Elk Talk Live. And a bunch of you emailed and said, Randy, why didn't we do Elk Talk Live last week? Well, there's this thing called the coronavirus going on. And I got back from a work event I had to go to the week before. And I wasn't feeling good Sunday. Monday I wake up, sore throat, chills. Tuesday I'm really sick. I go get a COVID test. And they say, you're not doing anything until you get your results. So that means on Wednesday last week, I was under quarantine. But the good news is my COVID test came back negative. So I woke up probably Sunday morning, for sure this Monday morning, like, oh yeah, back at it. Life's good again. So appreciate all of you who asked. Apologize that we weren't ready, set, go last week. But oh well, that's how it goes, right? You never know. Oh gosh, so many people are already online here. It's crazy. It's close to hunting season, right? I would say in the next 2 weeks, most of the bulls that you see in velvet right now are just going to have shreds of velvet hanging off them. They're going to be beating up little trees and doing their thing sometime between the 12th and 25th of August. You're going to see these elk getting with it. And then archery season. So we got a bunch of questions that came in, as always, on Facebook, on Instagram. All of you are really good at giving us good questions. And so now we're going to try to go through some of those, and with any luck, we'll give you some information that might be helpful. And as we do that, we got to make sure you know who brought this, made this available, so it's free, right? Go Hunt, Bowtech, Leupold, Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, Gerber, Canotrex, Mystery Ranch, Black Gold Sights, Tight Spot Quivers, Ripcord Arrow Rests. And I'm going to have to say this a couple times during the show because it gets asked all the time about promo code Randy, right? So I've got a way now for you to use a promo code for Mystery Ranch packs and for Sitka gear. I'll tell you later in the show. Should I tell them right now, Jonathan? Or should we tell them later? So anyhow, we'll get to all that stuff. Ray's like, oh, and don't forget DQ. Ray, I still got this shirt over here that you said you're going to pay $1,999 for the misspelled shirt. I haven't forgot that, Ray. There he says, question number 1, where's my t-shirt? Where's the money? Some people have already brought this up, and so I'm going to bring it up right now. We had Bo Beatty of Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas on Elk Talk Live a month ago. And we found out the following week that, so the background is, right, you watched him, 2019, he had cancer. He just fought and fought, got through all the radiation, the surgeries, everything. And his mile marker that he had of what he wanted to do was his elk hunt in the fall of 2019 in Wyoming. And he did that. So the idea, talking to Bo and Kirsten, his wife, is like, yeah, 2020 is going to be a great year. Well, then along comes this thing called COVID. And the biggest part of their business is the summer pack trips. They do pack trips in Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. They have 400 llamas that they're feeding year round so that they can do all these pack trips. Well, because of COVID, they lost the huge part of their business. They've had no summer reservations. So after the the Elk Talk Live that we had, it was the following Tuesday, I think, I found out that Bo's cancer is back. So, if you got any prayers that you can spare, Bo and Kirsten could use them. So, just a bummer deal. So, he tells me he's still going to go hunting with me in September. That's the kind of determination that he has. But if you read much of what I write, I always say, hunt when you can. And the idea is you could run out of health before you run out of money. And this is just one of those ones that hits hard when you see a young guy with a family like that dealing with it. So, prayers help a lot. I'm a big fan of that. And if you are inclined, there's a GoFundMe page set up for Bo also. But anyhow, it's on my mind, and some of you have already commented because you saw that I posted that on my Facebook page earlier today. So I thought I'd just put it out there, and like I said, I'm a firm believer that attitude and thoughts and prayers get people through a lot of tough stuff. And if I had to bet money on Bo Beatty, I'm betting that he's probably going to be on that elk hunt with me in September that he keeps telling me. He's been texting me every day. Don't worry, man, I'm going to be there. Well, I keep telling him you got a lot more important stuff, Bo, but if this is one of those mile markers that helps you, man, keep that as your marker. So, anyhow, if you got prayers, please send them their way. And then we've got all kinds of really cool questions. I'm going to start grabbing some of them right here off this list. We really are live, Jonathan. You weren't jerking my chain. How about that, huh? So Ryan asks, I'm a first-time elk hunter. I don't have enough points to draw a surefire unit. Do you think an over-the-counter tag in Colorado is a good place to start learning about elk hunting? Yes, very good place. It's going to be crowded. Before we turned on the mic, Jonathan and I were talking about how crazy is it going to be out in the woods this year because of the whole COVID thing. I don't know how it is in your part of the world, but here in Montana, I have never seen so many people at the lake, at the river, at the trailhead, up in the mountains as this summer. And everybody, you bump into them and you're trying to do your distancing. You're like, hey, what's up? No, I just needed to get out of the house. So I'm wondering how many people are going to be out in the woods this fall. This might be a pretty crowded season. And people already say, hey, Colorado over the counter, that's a pretty crowded time anyhow. I can't predict if it's going to be more crowded. But to Ryan's question, Colorado is one of the few states where you can go and get an over-the-counter tag for archery. When I say this, I'm talking about the units that are on the western half of the state. And they have a map that shows which units qualify. You can get it for archery, second rifle, or third rifle for elk. So you'll learn a lot. A lot of people ask me, well, is it worth it? Well, it's sure better than working. You're going to learn a whole lot more about elk hunting no matter what the end outcome is if you're out in the woods with them. And even if you got to share it with a lot of other hunters, oh well. So, let's see. Michael asks, do you think elk are harder to hunt than mule deer? Yes, I do. And if you look at success rates across the West, it definitely agrees with what I just said. Kay Myers says, I'm new to using an elk call. Should I still give it a go while I'm out in the field? Yes, that's how you're going to learn. And if you're worried about your friend or whoever, making fun of you, just think about how bad of a caller I am. And I call elk in. And I used to worry that, someone's going to make fun of me. You know what? They don't make fun of you when that bull comes walking in. That kind of shuts them up. So how do you learn? You get out there, you do it, and you call. And if you want to save 15% on your elk calls, you go to Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls and you use promo code Randy and they give you 15% off. But get them quick. So, Tim asks this one, and this kind of applies to my hunt. And we're going to get into this today. We're going to talk about e-scouting for elk. And it coincides, those of you who know that this Elk Talk Live is brought to you by GoHunt.com, they just released their 3D maps in the last 2 weeks, right? So now with your insider package, you get 3D maps along with it. And pretty soon, they're working on it. We're getting the beta where you're gonna have that also on your phone. So, how about that, huh? Now the value of that package is even better. But we're going to talk about how we're using 3D to take our e-scouting even to this next level. I was one of those old school guys who I have been a map junkie since I was a kid. So I can look at a topo map and I can pretty much tell you what that's going to look like when I'm there. And sometimes I would go to Google Earth because Google Earth had 3D imagery, but it didn't have all the layers that I wanted. So now I got the layers, I got the 3D imagery, and my mind is spinning about e-scouting for elk in a way that I didn't believe it. I wasn't, and you can ask the Go Hunt guys, when they told me that they were going to bring out 3D maps, I'm like, that's not, I can look at a map and tell what it's going to be. Well, now that I've had a chance to play with it, it's like, all right, I was wrong. So anyhow, Tim asked the question, and it relates to the e-scouting I'm doing for my same hunt in Colorado, same season anyhow. Tim says, will elk be above Timberline in the first rifle season in Colorado? And the answer is they can be. And so one of the things you'll see in the e-scouting videos that we're doing now that we have 3D maps, the other thing we do is the Go Hunt version has layers of elevation. Well, I know that in Colorado, in the unit I'm hunting, and I suspect that, Tim, wherever you're at, it's going to be pretty similar. The tree line is right about 11,000 to 11,500. And that's also about where the summer range is right where tree line and maybe above tree line, slightly into tree line. That's kind of that band of summer range. The place I'm hunting has a few 14ers in it. I don't plan on bagging a 14,000 foot peak while I'm there. And the elk aren't up there on the rock and ice at 14,000. They're down lower where there's really good feed. So their summer range is where's that band of the best possible food for the whole summer. And then below that is the transition range, the start of it. And what transition range is that range that elk occupy between their high summer range and their low winter range. Now in places like flat pinyon juniper places, like maybe in New Mexico or Arizona, you might not have this dramatic migration and change between winter and summer range. But here it applies in Colorado. So Tim, you're asking this question. Will the elk be above tree line? If you have a mild fall, the elk are going to be up at the higher end of the transition range on October 10th when that season opens this year. If you get some snow, which is very possible in those high mountains of Colorado, you start getting snow in September. Say you get a big dump of snow October 4th. Those elk are going to move from the upper end of the transition range down to the middle. And if you get one of those once in 25 years kind of big dumps of snow, they might even be further down in the transition range. So one of the things about now having 3D with elevation layers is I can go in and say, all right, from 8,000 feet to 11,500, I know that's the transition range. And when I click that on my Go Hunt 3D maps, that's what I get to see. That's what gets highlighted. Well, I know that's where the elk are going to be in October. So I've kind of eliminated everything else other than that. So just that quickly, by toggling two little switches, I've eliminated over 50% of my unit where I know there's going to be a few elk, but not very many. I've now isolated where the majority of the elk, the overwhelming majority of the elk are going to be, right there in that transition range. And then I just watch the weather. And if it's warm, I'm hunting up here. All of my points, all my sanctuaries, all my food sources that I marked up here, those are the ones I'm going to focus on. If we get a ton of snow, well, I'm going to be looking at all those waypoints and markers that I have slightly lower. So the answer to that is they're probably not going to be very far above tree line if they are. And in most years, you're going to get some snow where they're probably going to be at or slightly below tree line. So just know where the transition range is in the unit that you are hunting in Colorado. Because some of the units in the northwest part of the state don't have the big 14,000 foot peaks. So you're going to have a different transition range there. Now, if you go over to the front range, you're going to have a different transition range there. It's just know what it is about where you're hunting. Do as much research as you can. But using these 3D tools are really, really helpful. I keep saying I can't believe I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but I was wrong. So I'm using it a lot. 406 Moto asks, and this is a good question because it's one we're probably going to have to deal with someday. Do I think that states should change some rules around the success rate with the interest in archery climbing as much as it is? So if you looked at when archery seasons came in the 70s and 80s, the success rates were so low. The equipment and the technology was primitive. I mean, you were not taking shots beyond 20 yards probably. Well, as technology has increased, so has success rates. As success rates increase, so has interest. It becomes a snowball. And I'm not saying what states should do. I'm just saying that if archery becomes one of those things where we're so successful, that our success rates climb so high, we're going to start having to address how much opportunity can we have without impacting the herd. So when each state will make that decision, I don't know. Some states already have. Some states, it's, you got to pick your weapon. Are you going rifle? Are you going archery? Or going muzzleloader? Or some states, everything's on a limited draw. So there's already states that are addressing that. So that hopefully that gives you a little bit of I'm circling back to the 3D maps thing. Gives you a little bit of feel for how I'm using it and what I'm using it for. The e-scouting part of it, to not have to go from Google Earth to something else and back and forth, really, it's way more helpful than I thought it would be. Oh, let's see, grab some of the YouTube questions. What was that, Jonathan? Oh, I was RJ, who runs, he's our operations manager, he sent me a text. Make sure that people know that we just got 6 new episodes approved on Amazon Prime. So if you watch our stuff on Amazon Prime, all of a sudden, boom, there's 6 new episodes up there. It took them 6 months to approve the first 4 or 5. And now within a week, they just like, whoop, yeah, here's 6 more. So I think that we have 2 or 3, maybe, that we're calling them bonus episodes, aren't we, Jonathan? We got paddle fishing, we got Marcus's Alaska moose hunt, and one other one. Oh, Coos deer. So, let's see. Here's one. I like this one because we've talked about it in the past. Randy, if you could only pick one rifle for your big game hunting, what would it be? It would be, so we're going to do it this year. And it's a toss-up between if I had more deer and antelope hunts that year or more elk hunts that year. But I have the Randy Newberg Howa Signature Series rifles. If I was doing mostly elk hunting, I would use my 308. And if I was doing mostly deer hunting, but some elk hunting, it would be my 7mm 08. And this year, just because so many people give me grief about shooting these 308 7mm 08s, I'm thinking that I'm probably going to do one season, one rifle. The rifle you're going to see me use all year is my 7mm 08 with, let's see, do I have it here? Oh yeah, look at that. E-tip nozzler. I'm going to be using 140 grain nozzler E-tip bullets. And I'm going to have a Leupold VX5, 3 to 15 on it. And so that's what we're going to do. You know, some people will say, Randy, you have a 300 Win mag, you have a 7mm, why aren't you using those? Well, because I love how accurate my 7mm 08 is. I don't know how it's as accurate as it is, because it's, you know how some things are more accurate or more lethal than all the experts and all the ballistics and all the technology say they should be? Well, that's kind of the case with this. So, let's see. Man, you guys are really stacking them up here. All right. For any of you who have a mobility impaired hunter, Doug asked this question, and so I'm going to answer it for Doug, but we all know a lot of hunters who are mobility impaired. Doug asks, hey Randy, I'm a new hunter and I'm disabled and must, for the most part, be near or hunt from my vehicle. How do you suggest I go about hunting elk, and do you think it's even possible? I do think it's possible, in New Mexico especially, and here's why. New Mexico gives away mobility impaired tags, MI they call them. And they are the best mobility impaired hunts in the West, hands down, no questions asked. They're best units that have the highest density of elk, the best age class. They let the mobility impaired hunters, they don't give away a lot of tags, but the MI hunters get to go out the week before the other rifle hunters, and you could have a really good hunt if you drew one of those tags. So that's where I would go. I wouldn't give up on it. I'd say yes, you can do that. So, what is my favorite state to hunt elk in? Well, this year, my favorite state to hunt elk in is going to be Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, and Oregon, because that's the states I have tags for. I don't have Arizona, I don't have Utah, I don't have whatever, but those are great states also. So, how could I answer this one? Will asks, hey Randy, you've been talking about your llama naming contest. Yep, I have. And yesterday they closed it. Gerber closed the llama naming contest. And they sent me the results, and I have them here on the spreadsheet. 6,553 names were submitted. And in the next few days, they're going to pick the top. I don't know if they're picking 8 or 10. And if they pick one that is a duplicate, say 4 people submitted the same name, the person who submitted it first is the one who gets the prize. And there's some really, there's some that it's crazy how many names got submitted of the same thing. Hank, Teddy, as in Teddy Roosevelt, Big Hank. There's a lot of them that are the same. Fleetwood, just scrolling through them here, there's a lot of them. So in the next week or so, I suspect they're going to pick these finalists. All the finalists are going to get some prizes, and then whoever the picked winner, like the winner, is probably gonna get even a bigger prize package. Dilly, I take it that's over Dilly bars. Crazy number of people submitted Dilly. Brutus is another popular one. Yeah. Anyhow, thanks all of you for participating. Gerber is just astounded that a llama would generate this much interest, but that's how we're going to do it. Someone says, Randy, do you give away a lot of meat? Carrie asks this. Yes, I do. Jonathan, did you get a lot of meat last year? Yes, we have a crew of...
Still eating it.
Well, I'm empty. So he says, yeah, I'm still eating some of it. My freezer is empty. I told my wife over the weekend, I said, Kim, I'm going to Nevada sometime in August because I have a mule deer tag. And I better be successful because there is no meat left in my freezer. There's a couple caribou roasts from last year. But I bring it to the office and I share it with the crew. And these guys are all in their 20s and 30s. It's like throwing fresh meat to a pack of hyenas, man. It's just like, I'll take this, I'll take that. So yeah, I share a lot, but that's great. That's part of what we do. I share with my neighbors. For me, I came from a culture where if you were fortunate enough to take an animal, you shared it. You shared it with the neighbor, you shared it with cousins, aunts, uncles, whatever. It was always a sharing event, and to me, that's part of my ethos, my culture that I come from, and it's something that I want to keep doing. So, a bunch of you have brought this up. I want to make sure that we mention it. The Great American Outdoors Act passed. The president signed it yesterday. President Trump signed it. It passed the Senate with 75%. So you talk about bipartisan, right? 75% in the Senate and almost 70% in the House. So the Great American Outdoors Act takes the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is a program that's the same age I am, and it takes offshore oil and gas royalties, puts them in this account with the idea of, well, we're depleting one public asset, let's use it to acquire other public assets, i.e. land and parks and swimming pools and fishing access sites and public land and trailheads. So the whole idea behind that was money comes out of here, a little portion of it will go into this account. Well, only one time in the 55 years has Congress fully funded the money in that account. Every other time they've diverted all or a big chunk of it to other projects, other things not related to what this fund was used for. So the Great American Outdoor Act that got signed yesterday says we're going to take that money and it's going in this fund, and Congress, you can't divert it. You can't put it somewhere else. And it's going to go for backlog and maintenance in our national parks. It's going to go for acquiring in holdings where, okay, you got this little piece of private where a road goes through and it's blocked and it keeps us away from the other 20,000 acres of public land. On a willing buyer, willing seller basis, it's going to acquire those in holdings. It's going to put, fishing access sites, fishing piers, swimming sites, boat ramps. It's really big. I went to Washington, D.C. my first time in 1998, and the bill was called CARA, the Conservation and Reinvestment Act. And it didn't get much leverage in 98. In 2000, we had it right to the finish line. I mean, like right there. And some people in the Senate, some anti-public land senators, got it killed at the last minute. So that's why I've been holding my breath. Okay, it passed the House. Yeah, great. I'm not going to get too worked up about it. It passes the Senate. I'm like, this is kind of where we were before, even further. And then the president signs it. I was out filming a conservation piece yesterday when the president was signing that, and it put a big smile on my face to know that there's been people working on this forever. I mean, I'm not the oldest guy around, but I've been working on it for 22 years. And I'm just this itty bitty little grain of sand of this huge mountain of people who've been putting their time in trying to get this passed, trying to get it passed. So anyhow, thanks for all of you who might have called your senator, your congressman, whatever, all the work that so many people did. It's still almost like, how did that happen? The political planets aligned, and you know what? Great for wildlife, great for conservation, great for everything. So I'm happy for it. Let's see. Randy, I'm looking forward to your Shields virtual appearance. Yes, Monday at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, Shields Sporting Goods is having me live for a Q&A for anywhere from an hour, hour and a half. They have, if you go to shields.com, it has all that out there. And so, yeah, we're going to be talking mule deer and elk. And then also, Craig asks, have you ever been to Unit 76 in Colorado? Not talking. I've been near there, let's put it that way. So you guys, some of you guys ask me questions, and I think I'm not going to answer them because you ask about specific units, specific drainages, and I think you ask them to just see if I'll slip up and say something. So Jeremy says, I'm looking at getting a pair of Canotrex boots. Which ones would you recommend for elk hunting in Nevada and Idaho? I would go with, depends on if your feet get cold, don't get cold. I use the Canotrex Mountain Guide. If you want a sole that isn't quite as firm, it gives you, but has a more rubbery grip, go with the Mountain Extreme. And I use the non-insulated version. And right now, if you buy your Canotrex boot at Canotrex.com and use promo code RANDY, you're going to get a free pair of gaiters, which are a $75 item, if I remember right. Something like that. So I like how some of you are prefacing your questions by saying, in your opinion, because most of what you're going to get with me is opinion based on personal experience. So, Randy, will the elk rut be going on strong in Montana on the archery opener? It might be. It'll be that pre-rut phase, but it's really close this year. I think we opened September 6th, if I remember right. It's going to be closer to that peak rut than when it opens on September 1st or 2nd or 3rd. Montana, we always open the first Saturday in September. So sometimes the calendar pushes that out, it is closer to that peak rut cycle. So I think it's going to be really, really good compared to when it opens 4 or 5 days earlier, because it's ramping up really quick. If you think about elk, that period where they go from early season in August to peak rut, so that pre-rut phase, that is a huge transition in their body, in their mindset, in their behavior. They go from a food pattern to a breeding pattern so quickly in the course of about 7 to 10 days. They go from, kind of got rid of the velvet, to, whoom, here we are. And so I think it's going to be a really good elk season. Ray Garcia, I think I asked this question rhetorically the other day, or 2 weeks ago when we did this. Randy, do you do anything with your elk ivories? I have a whole drawer full of them at home in a baggie, and I've always asked myself, what am I going to do with all of these? So, let's see. Unit 4 in Colorado. No, I've never hunted Unit 4 in Colorado. Some people are talking about the prices of what it costs for out-of-state elk tags. And yeah, I get it. I apply in all these other states, and I wish it was less expensive. I really do, but it's not. And so it becomes something you got to make your priority in terms of your budget and your time. And I think this winter, when we get ready to do all of the drawing videos that we always do, we'll probably get into that topic again and talk about, the whole idea of out-of-state pricing and restrictions and why it can be done and why it's not illegal. But there's always this, how to do it fair. Well, what's fair? Everybody's got a different definition of fair. So Jorgen asks, Randy, how do you find elk in heavily forested areas? I'm talking about Rocky Mountain elk here. If you're hunting the heavily forested areas on the Pacific coast, where you're hunting Roosevelt elk, I'm not the guy to answer. This year is going to be my first Roosevelt elk hunt, so I am as green as bananas about this. But when it comes to something in the way of Rocky Mountain elk in heavily forested areas, I'm not the expert on that either, other than I am in a lot of places where it is heavily forested, and I go find the fringe areas. I go where that heavily forested area has a canopy disruption. What's a canopy disruption? It could be a fire, it could be logging, it could be thinning, it could be beetle kill, it could be an avalanche shoot, it could be something that disturbs the landscape in a way that this big canopy of just monoculture forest is disrupted. Because on those edges is where you get those best foods. So that's really how I approach it when I see these big forested areas. Chris says, hey Randy, bananas are yellow. No, if you live in Montana, you buy your bananas when they're green, because the truck only comes about once a year. And people have commented that, and like, Montana's the only place I know where they sell green bananas. Well, sorry. It's now everyone's throwing out all the Randyisms here. Come on, folks, cut me some slack here, would you? Jeez, I can't cut any. Yeah. All right. So Bodie says, Randy, I tried to use promo code Randy on my daily bar and it didn't work. No, it doesn't work at Dairy Queen. But let me tell you how you can get a promo code to work on Sitka gear. All right? You've been asking for it. If you want a 10% discount on Sitka gear, here's what you do. You go to the Go Hunt gear shop, gohunt.com, go to their gear shop. Today they launched their big Sitka product sale. You go there, and when you check out, use promo code Randy, and everything in your cart, you get 10% off. Huh? How about that? You folks asked me, figure out how you can get a promo code for Sitka gear. Well, I just got you one. 10% off. We don't pay retail. Remember that? I always say don't pay retail. And if you want one of these Gerber Randy Newberg series knives, go to gerbergear.com, and when you check out and use promo code Randy, you save 20%. So this $60 knife, after 20% off, is $48. This one, which is the EBS, Exchange Blade System, or this one, which is the DTS, the Dual Tool System. There you go. Just trying to save you money, folks. And oh, Mystery Ranch. If you want to save some money on those Mystery Ranch backpacks, another 10%, go out to Go Hunt and buy them there. And when you check out, use promo code Randy, and you just save 10% on your Mystery Ranch pack. So, all right, you people quit giving me so much grief about my 5-alarm chili episode that you saw. Jonathan filmed that thing, and he laughed the entire time I was telling the story. And I'm sitting there trying to tell this story and keep a straight face, and he's doubled over. So, anyhow, yeah, those of you who are following our YouTube channel, you saw the 5-alarm chili, the death by dysentery one, and it's bad. It's too much information. So Eric says, I'm glad your knives are orange because I keep losing mine. Well, me too, but here's the other part. The handles on both of them have not just reflective, but retro-reflective. And same with the box that the replaceable blades come in. And what is retro-reflective? Well, up here in the Gallatin and Madison range and the Crazies and the AB Wilderness, I've got knives laying all over the place because at night I set them down and there might be a little snow and I cannot find those things. So I told Gerber, if we're going to do this, we're putting reflective on there. They said, better yet, let's take that military idea we use and let's put retro-reflective on there. And retro-reflective, what it does is whatever direction the light comes from, it reflects it back. So you shouldn't lose these in the hills anymore. All right, now we got to talk about a little bit more about e-scouting with 3D maps. So if you go out to Go Hunt, they have a free trial right now. If you want to sign up for a free trial of the Insider, which is the draw odds, all the strategy articles, everything, plus the maps. So now it's the same price, one package. Jonathan's going to put the link up here. But here's another little trick. I'm not sure why I've still got too many elk hunting years ahead of me to be spilling all these beans here, but here's something you want to think about. And this is where 3D imagery is so helpful. Again, earlier I said I did not believe 3D imagery could be that big of a help. Well, it is. So Jonathan just put the link up here on the screen of where you can get the free trial. And if you do sign up for good, make sure you use promo code Randy, because you're going to get the $50 of free money in their gear shop. But I don't know how many of you read all these studies like I do. I am always reading anything that comes out about elk. If you don't, you should go out and follow the Wildlife Society. The Wildlife Society is the association of all the fish and game biologists in the country. These are the people doing the research, writing the papers, doing all this thinking about what's going on out there on the landscape. There's amazing articles there. There's amazing articles in the Starkey Experimental Forest in Oregon that I would say the original elk-centric research, so much of it can be traced back to the Starkey. And it was a joint partnership between the U.S. Forest Service and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and one of the universities, I think Oregon State University. So one of the things that you find out if you read all this stuff is that when elk bed on a slope, and you're going to see where I'm going with this when you use your 3D maps with GoHunt, is they bed in the top third. They either bed on the crest or in the top third. Yeah, some of them bed down further, but the majority of the elk. So when you're e-scouting and you're trying to figure out where are the elk most likely to bed, focus on that top third. Well, the 3D map from GoHunt also has a line tool where you can start at the bottom of the slope and put another dot at the top of the slope, and it tells you what that vertical elevation is. Okay, it's 900 feet. Well, the top third is 300 feet. So I'm going to look at that top 300 feet. That's the most likely area where an elk is going to bed. Doesn't mean they won't bed somewhere else, or maybe they'll bed right on the crest. But by looking at that, in that band along that ridge line, you can eliminate a whole lot of other territory, and you're not wasting your time. Man, I can't believe I'm telling all this stuff. Here's the other part, all right? If you read these studies, you learn that elk do not like to bed on a slope any steeper than 20 degrees. So what's 20 degrees? Well, a circle is 360 degrees. Cut that into 18 pieces of pie, and you get a slice that's about 20 degrees. Well, it's going to be somewhere in about that. Well, I can look in 3D now, whereas before on those, just looking at 2D topo lines, it's like, boy, that's just this great big steep face. Well, now with 3D, I see, oh, there's a slight little bench right there. I didn't know that. Oh, that bench runs all the way along from this saddle. There's kind of a little flatter bench that goes along there, and it flattens out there. Guess what? That is a really likely place that elk are going to bed. So we're releasing a video on just these few little tools that I've been working with the last couple months with GoHunt. By the time it's all said and done, the number of e-scouting tools I am hounding them for is a significant amount. So I'm hoping that we're all right, there's a couple good ones in here. I'm hoping that we're able to keep bringing you more of these little tidbits, and now with 3D and the layers combined, it's got my mind spinning and thinking about, yeah, this is what I was hoping for. This is what I can do now. So, all right. Caleb says, what do I know about the Great American Outdoor Act? Caleb, you must have just shown up because 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, we did a big dissertation on that. So maybe go back and when we're done here, go look at that. All right. Someone says, Randy, I just researched an article that moon phase has no effect on the timing of the elk rut. And then he says, Corey is wrong. Because in the Elk Talk podcast, Corey's he'll talk about moon phase. And what he's really talking about is when you have a full moon phase, a lot more, it doesn't change the period in the rut. It changes the activity that's happening in the daylight hours. And I don't disagree with that. There is more activity going on at nighttime in the full moon than there is in a new moon. But it does not change the period during which the rut peaks and kind of becomes this 2-week band of when most of the cows are in estrus. So it doesn't. But I like how you're throwing Corey under the bus. I didn't throw Corey under the bus there. You did. Let's see. All you New Mexico folks are, hey, shout out from the chili state. That's too funny. Way too funny. Josh says, if all the elk hunters keep listening to Randy Newberg, there won't be any elk left. What do you mean, Josh? Come on, man, cut me some slack. Don't trust everything you hear from me. This is all trial and error for me. So the only thing I have going for me is I get to hunt a lot, so I get to make a lot of mistakes. You guys are way too funny. Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think of what promo code I haven't mentioned today. I think I've got them all covered. All right. Do I use insulated or non-insulated boots during rifle season, which is usually October or November? I use non-insulated. We have a video that we shot. Did you film that one too, Jonathan? The one about the moisture management? Oh, Michael did. That's right, Michael did that one. So that one is going to talk about how we are able to use our Canotrex non-insulated leather boots in cold temperatures, and it's all about moisture management. And if you go back, I think it was 4 or 5 Wednesdays or episodes ago here on Elk Talk Live, we talked about moisture management. We talked about what we do. So it's we're going to talk about that, but it's something you can get by with. If you manage the moisture in your boots and how perspiration gets in there and keep moisture out from the elements, you can use a really, really high quality leather boot down to 0 degrees. So, Don has a question that we've been kicking around. Don Zant, when's Mobile Go Hunt going live? We've asked them, and I think in the next week you're going to be able to get Go Hunt's their maps. I don't know if 3D is going to be available on this, but you're going to be able to get your maps on here. And it's going to be beta. All of you who are insiders or signed up for the free trial, you're going to get your chance to get a look at it. So, let's see. I'm not answering that one. Randy, are you going to apply for a Kentucky elk tag? I apply every year. The real question is Kentucky going to ever give me a tag? Probably not, because the odds are so low. Do I collect shed antlers? I wonder if we could do a poll. I bet you 99% would be able to answer Justin's question. No, Randy does not collect shed antlers. I hang them in the trees. And the reason that I hang them in the trees, a lot of people ask me this, is I grew up next to two reservations, two Ojibwe Chippewa reservations in northern Minnesota. So I had a lot of native friends and travel friends. And part of their deal was if they found an antler, they'd hang it in a tree. It was just kind of their way of, as I understood it, I could be wrong, but as I understood it as a young kid, that was kind of them giving back an offering and asking for bounty in the next hunt. So I just started doing that. Growing up, I didn't know that anybody collected shed antlers. It's like, oh, hang it in a tree. So I move out west, I find these elk antlers, I hang them in trees. So I don't collect them. If you're ever walking around somewhere and you see an elk antler in a tree, you might know where I've been hunting. In fact, a lot of people will take a picture and they'll tag me in it and say, hey, Newberg must have been here. Justin asks, what kind of calling, if any, would you use on a hunt that runs from October 19th to November 1st? You know, I am not going to rely on calling much during a period like that. That is a post-hunt period. The mature bulls that we're going to be looking at that are highly pressured on public land are going to be in sanctuary mode. Maybe in a limited entry unit where there's no hunting pressure or very little hunting pressure, you could call a little bit and you'd get some response. It wouldn't be a tactic I'd rely on, let's put it that way. You can try it, but I certainly would not make that my primary go-to, this is how I'm gonna fill my tag sort of thing. So, let's see. Dave is on here saying, hey, he's answering a lot of the questions. Dave is working on an FAQ, frequently asked questions list for us. And so when you see Dave chiming in here, it's because he's working with our team, me and RJ, to kind of take the generic or the most common questions and he can copy and paste the answers here. So when you see Dave answer, like here he says, Randy doesn't give unit numbers. That's kind of us and him working on the FAQ. So it's kind of how we do it. John Smith says, hey, thanks, Randy. I just ordered my Gerber DTS and I used your promo code and I got 20% off. Yeah, there you go. Trying to think what other things we should get promo codes for. Alpaca Rafts, we got a promo code, right? Randy 2020. Isn't that what it is? I think it is. Randy 2020. If you buy an Alpaca Raft, you'll get 15% off, something like that. Someone says we need a a promo code for trucks and tires. Now that would be interesting. This one has come up a couple times. It came up also in the Facebook comments today, so I'm going to grab it because it's here on the YouTube feed. It says, do elk and deer live in the same area? Yeah, a lot of times their home ranges or their summer range or their transition range can overlap. And sometimes it doesn't overlap just in terms of elevation. It might overlap in terms of distance, in terms of required or preferred forage types. Most people would tell you that deer are a little bit more of a browser and an elk is a little bit more of a grazer. So one's gonna want more grasses and forbs, the other's gonna want more brush or browse, buckbrush, stuff like that, sage. But elk are super adaptable. Mule deer are a little bit more selective. So elk can compete with mule deer better than mule deer can compete with elk. And there's studies starting to come out that I think they're going to be out in the next couple of years once they get peer reviewed, that it's going to say some things that there's some complications between elk and mule deer, that maybe elk are out competing mule deer. We don't know that for sure. They're not going to do anything or they're not going to publish anything that's not 100% peer reviewed, but it'll be interesting to see that data and figure out how much overlap there is. And where there is overlap, what kind of consequence could be there. Let's see, Porter asks, Randy, what rangefinder distance do you use, or how far does your rangefinder go out? I have two rangefinders. I have Leopold's. I have the TBR 1500 or 1600, 1600, so that goes out to 1600. And then they just sent me the new, I think it's BRX, the new rangefinding binos, and that goes out to 3000. Yeah, so that's either of those are so much further than I'll ever shoot. It doesn't really matter. You guys have heard me say it many times. We focus on getting within reasonable hunting distances, and that brings up the question of what's a reasonable hunting distance? Well, I want to be 400 yards and under, preferably 300 and under. And even more preferable to that is 200 and under. So I'm not the guy that you would want to ask all kinds of stuff about, you know, super long range, 1,500 yard shots. I'm not that guy. And let's see. What dehydrated food do you use for dinner? You want to save 10% on dehydrated foods? You can get the Peak Refuel. I think they even have some of the Mountain Houses at Go Hunt's Gear Shop. And when you check out, I'm going to keep saying this because you guys ask me. So here's how it works. Go Hunt will ask me, Randy, what are you using? So I send them a list of everything I'm using, and they try to stock in their gear shop as much of it as they possibly can, because they know that we tell our audience, go there to buy stuff. Well, if I'm using this and they don't have it, it's like, So a lot of the dehydrated foods we use, they stock. And so when you go there and buy them, check out, use promo code Randy, and save 10%. You're not going to get a 10% discount with promo code Randy down at REI or down at whatever, other place. So we want you to save money. The more money you save on gear and supplies, the more money you have for tags. Let's see, where's that other question? I saw some here. A lot of you are asking questions that are not elk related. So like we've said in the past, we stick into the elk related stuff and doing our best to just keep it on that. We're interested in all the other hunting, don't get me wrong. Randy, how do you keep your phone dry or protected while backpack hunting? Do we have one of our little dry bags in here? I don't know if we do. Sea to Summit makes these really good little dry bags. And sometimes when the camera crew hijacks my dry bags, I just take a little quart-size Ziploc baggie and I put it in that and I stuff it in my pack or stuff it in my pocket or whatever. So it works great. But it's definitely an issue. Phones aren't necessarily that durable to weather. So make sure that you're doing what you have to do to keep it operating. Oh, Randy, when are you having a chili cook-off? You guys, you're giving me so much grief about my death by dysentery here. I don't deserve all that grief. Let's see. Idaho 4x4 Bronco asks, Randy, is the 80 millimeter spotter a big advantage over the 60 millimeter if you are not hiking beyond 2 miles in distance? That's a really good question when you're talking 2 miles. I guess 2 miles really steep or 2 miles of just average country, I'd grab the extra weight of my 80 and leave the 60 behind. Now, if it's really steep, nasty, and everything else, I might still go with the 60. But for us, we're doing now a lot of phone scoping through that for the video that some of you see, those long distances in our stuff. The 80, you can get that extra level of crispness, especially at low light and especially around the edge of that bigger objective lens. So if you said, would it be a big advantage if you were only going a mile? Absolutely. If you're going 2 miles, if the terrain's steep, maybe it's starting to get there. This is one we talked about last week. Someone says, Randy, what elk calls should I get? Not last week, the week before. Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls has come out with this entire plate, slate we'll call it, of what calls fit what size of mouth. And I can't overestimate or overstate how important it is to make sure the call, if you're doing a diaphragm call, make sure it fits the roof of your mouth, the curvature. Like I've said, I have this really wide, flat palate at the top of my mouth. Now Corey, he says his is about like that. So it's going to take a different call, different size, different build to seal the wind, the air that you're pushing across that latex reed. So if you can, go to Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls and look at their chart that says, if you have a wide palate, here's the calls for that. If you have an average, medium, here's that. If you have a really high palate, here's that. And then they have medium, novice, expert for every one of those. So go to Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls and just get them there. They've got it figured out so well now. And use promo code Randy and they'll give you 15% off. So there you go, right there. Jonathan he's pulling it up. Let's see, discount on a pack. We talked about that earlier. Go buy your Mystery Ranch pack at Go Hunt and use promo code Randy when you check out and they'll give you 10% off. So some of you guys are having some interesting conversations between each other here. So someone says, advice for a late hunt, November 4th season elk hunt in Colorado. My advice is it's late season, sanctuary, sanctuary, sanctuary. You've already had an archery season, a muzzleloader season, possibly an early rifle, a first rifle, a second rifle, and a third rifle season. And now you're the 4th season. These elk have seen it all. They are bird into sanctuaries. And the sanctuaries could be topography, distance, could be private, it could be these boundaries. Absolutely focus on sanctuaries at that time. So is there a place with all of your discounts and promo codes, Randy? Yes, there is. If you go to hunttalk.com, in the announcements, we have a forum. I'm going to see if I own the hunttalk.com. It says promo codes and other links. Save money here. I'm going to paste it for you because we want everybody to save money. Okay? Save money here. There you go. Let's see. What binoculars do I use, and does the power matter? I use Leupold BX5s, 10x42s. Does the power matter? It does and it doesn't. It comes down to your preference. Are you glassing far, far away? Are you looking for really small objects, or are you looking for bigger objects? For me, the 8 or 10 is that good mix to cover a lot of ground, have a good crisp field of view. And if I'm elk hunting, I'm going to see for a long distance through an 8 or 10 power. Now, some people jump to a 12 or a 15. For me, carrying those around my neck, the weight, the bulk, everything is just not for something as active as elk hunting. So I use a 10x42, and if I see something, I've always got a spotting scope with me. That's where I really dial it in. So, but let's see. Does anyone else wear a 16.5 to size 17 boot? What brand? Wow. If anyone does, help Eric out, man, or Derek. He's asking the question. I wear a 10.5, so that's way out beyond me. So somebody has a good point here when they answered a question is they said, hey, make sure you're aware of the CWD, chronic wasting disease laws for the unit and the state where you're hunting. Yes. So here's and I think Brendan is asking the question, the original question is, Randy, if you're hunting an area of the West that has chronic wasting disease, what should I do when the animal is down? What do you do with an animal in a CWD area? Well, we know that CWD is most commonly found in the spinal tissue and in the brain. So I do the gutless method right away. I mean, I don't even bother with anything else because I want to leave that carcass right there, that whole spine. This is where that animal lived. By leaving that spine there, I'm not going to be transferring and possibly relocating more prions somewhere else. I don't eat any of the spinal tissue. I don't know anyone who does. So if I am going to do a full shoulder mount, I will cap the skull and just take the skull cap and the antlers. Usually I do European mount. So when we get back to our camp, we carry with us this thing called a Bridger boiler. I think it's what it's called, Bridger burner, Bridger boiler. And we can do our own Euros right out there in the field before we leave that hunting unit. So then we're not taking brain material to some other place that doesn't have CWD. And then, like the one person said, make sure you check the laws, the protocols. Maybe you're in an area where it's mandatory testing. Maybe you got to bring the whole head in so that they can get those 2 glands out of there, or nodes, whatever it is, where they do the testing. So you want to make sure that you got it dialed in, that you know what the rules are. All right, someone says, Randy, you got any discounts for Leupold products? Yeah, I do. Again, this is a deal we got set up with Go Hunt. And because they watch this Elk Talk Live, same as all of you. They're watching this. They're like, Randy, all of your viewers want discounts. I'm like, yep. So if you go to Go Hunt and you buy Leupold optics there and you use promo code DQ, like, yeah, DQ, Dairy Queen, like DQ, I think it's still active. I think they were giving people 5% off on that, if I remember right. And if that fails, use promo code Randy and see if they'll give you the full 10% off out there. When in doubt, right? So let's see. A lot of people asking me opinions about equipment, and I'm when it comes to equipment that has some sort of ethical question or connotation to the question, I'm usually not going to weigh in on it. It's like, that's up for each person to decide. I really want people to kind of sort that out for themselves. So we're going to grab a few more questions here. What else do I need? I was told I need to announce a few other things, but I'm trying to remember what it was. I know that the merchandise at, what is it, shoprandynewberg.com is where you can buy our hats and t-shirts. And use promo code Randy there till you get discounts. But I need to work, well, I know with black gold sights and ripcord, I know they sell those down at Go Hunt. You could get a discount there with promo code Randy. We talked about Mystery Ranch. Canotrex, we told you that you get $75 pair of gaiters for free when you buy boots at canotrex.com and use promo code Randy. Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, you get 15% off with the promo code. Gerber Gear, you get 20% off. And Go Hunt, I mean, use promo code Randy for everything there. When you sign up for the Insider, the whole works. I hate saying that. All you are asking me all this stuff. It's like, gosh, I quit. I want you to save money, but I don't want to. What we're gonna have to do, Jonathan, is come up with a logo that says, just use promo code Randy. How's that? Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Ray, you're funny. What's the best tasting meat that I've ever had? Oh boy, the Dall sheep in Alaska was unbelievable. Every antelope I've ever had is unbelievable. The moose is always great. Elk is always great. It's hard to say. Don't ever make me choose between this or that. I like it all. Man, it's all so good. So, what else we got, Jonathan? You got a couple great questions that I've missed somewhere along the way? I'm looking at our list. Oh, here we go. Kevin says, Randy, the gutless method worked good for us until trying to get the tenderloins out. That was a struggle. Okay, here's the deal. We're going to do a video, because if you go out to randynewberg.com/Gerber, you see at the bottom, you can download our 4 Gerber videos of the gutless method, how to remove the lower legs, how to debone, and then just general how to keep your knife sharp and keep your animal from getting dirty. In our gutless method, that 20-some minute video that you can download, we show you how to get the tenderloin out in the gutless method. But this year, the first elk we get down, in fact, I think every elk we get down, we're going to film this and show people, here's how you do it. So I'm going to make a mess of it trying to explain it here, but I'm going to stand up. So the tenderloin in an elk connects down here by the pelvic bone, and it comes up here, and it connects to the spine back here. So you're really looking at a muscle about that long. So you go up here and you clip it there, and you clip it here, and then you dig it out from underneath the spine, and it just rolls right out. So we'll do that in more detail when we're out in the field this year. And so there will be a 5th video there that says getting the tenderloins out while doing this sort of gutless method. So, hey, Travis just said, hey, Randy, I just went out to gohunt.com, and the promo code Randy gives you 10% off of Leupold products. I didn't know that. I thought they capped it at 5%. We won't tell anyone, will we? And earlier in this presentation, we told you about our great friends, Bo and Kirsten, the Beatty family, their son Wade, at Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas. And I know Bo, he and Kirsten are such proud people. They don't want to do anything that seems like they're asking for help, but his cancer is back, and he's going to have surgery in the next 2 weeks. And if you got a prayer, like I asked earlier, I hope you have an extra prayer for them, because they're dear friends. They've done so much. They donate so many of these trips and other stuff for conservation groups, for public land groups. They're just always happy, always smiling. And man, I can't even tell you how cool it would be if Bo can keep his promise. Not promise, but he's told me in the last couple of weeks. I talked to him last Thursday. He actually came through Bozeman, and he said, now remember, I am coming hunting with you in Wyoming in September. I don't care about this cancer. I am coming hunting with you. And I love that determination. I love everything about him. Prayers are most important. And if you are able to, or you are inclined, the great folks at First Light Gear, who are friends of Bo's also, they set up this GoFundMe account. If you can donate there, that's great too. But really, Bo and Kirsten need our prayers at this time. So if you got one, send it his way. Send it their way. Jason, this is a really, really good one. Randy, I just got my Leupold VX5 HD. Love it. I got one too. I'm getting ready to mount on a few rifles. How important is getting an accurate muzzle velocity when ordering my CDS dial? Very important. because that starts telling you what your ballistic drop is going to be. And the further it gets out there, the more any errors at the muzzle velocity, any deviations get amplified the further out there you go. So find someone who has a chronograph, if you don't have one, and test that. I'm lucky. I use Nosler's factory loaded ammo. And when I look at, I mean, they give you what their muzzle velocities will be. It is so close in my rifles. I mean, like really, really close. And then my deviations, the deviations are like so minuscule, there's hardly any deviation. But you really want to know what that muzzle velocity is. So if you can, before you go do that, you want to know that muzzle velocity, because once they etch that dial, that's the ballistics. Okay, you send them the information for your best guess of elevation, your best guess of atmospheric temperature. You tell them what the ballistic coefficient is. You tell them what the sectional density of the bullet is. And all of that information, plus the muzzle velocity and the weight of the bullet, get put into the ballistic calculator they use to etch your dial. So, yeah, it's not one you want to just guess. So, if you can, in any way, get it in front of a chrono. I think if you use really high quality ammunition, like the Nosler stuff that we use here, you know, this trophy grade, it's going to be super consistent. And depending on where you're at, like at sea level, right, you're going to have a slightly less or slightly slower muzzle velocity just because of the air density than you're going to have up at 10,000 feet. So that's why I say, depending on where you live, be testing that stuff. And then once you test it and you know you get your dials set for that. And if you go hunt someplace that's going to be a little higher or a little lower, or you hunt on a day that's going to be a little colder or a little warmer, know what those variations are to how you zeroed that dial. They're not going to be very much. In normal hunting distance under 400 yards, they're not going to be enough that you probably really have to worry about it. So that's why I think the CDS system is the slickest thing that I've ever come across for hunting. Especially when you have a lot of guests like we do. We hand them a rifle they've never shot, and we say, CDS means click, dial, shoot. Click it with your rangefinder, spin the dial, shoot. And it works really, really slick for us. So, and I'm sure it'll work slick for you. Let's see. What else we want to wrap it up with here? Let's see. I saw one that they scroll through really fast on my end here. George says bullets are flying off the shelves. Yes, they are. Bullets. Talk to Howa, and what Howa has right now for back orders is off the charts. They can't produce it quick enough. It's crazy. I don't want to talk about that one. That one's not important. I'm trying to find the best one. So let's see. Tents, wintering tents, one with a stove. This is a good one. Stephanie asked this one. You see us use a lot of Hilleberg tents. Okay, they're a double tent. In other words, they're a tunnel tent that has an outer protective layer, and then they have an inner protective layer. One protects you from the elements. The other allows all of your condensation to go through and get on the outer layer, but not come through. I love my Hilleberg tents. But when you ask for a stove, Hilleberg doesn't make a tent that allows you to have a stove in it. And so when we're doing some of these cold camps, we're trying to figure out what's a solution for a stove. Well, Seek Outside has some really, really good tents also. In their tents, you can use a stove. So that's that's one I'd look into if you need a tent that has a stove in it and weight is your issue. I'd definitely look into that. So, Randy, have you ever had success calling an elk over a fence? I have not. I have tried many times, but like I say, I'm not that good of an elk caller, first of all. But I have found that big obstacles like a fence, like a creek, a bunch of blowdown, they just aren't going to get that worked up about it. Or they might get worked up, but they're not willing to let their guard down. Let's put it that way. So anyhow, that's kind of what we got for tonight. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Just remember, so all these clothing questions come up again. So if you want to save 10% on your Sitka gear, go buy it from gohunt.com and check out with promo code Randy, and you got 10% off your Sitka gear. But next week, Jonathan and I and Dale, we're going to be out doing a little bit of filming next week, and if we get done in time, we might get in here to do Elk Talk Live, but we might not. So I can assure you that 2 weeks from today, what will that be, the 19th? Are you around on the 19th, Jonathan? All right. I can assure you we're going to be here on the 19th. Guaranteed. Now, next week, it's kind of hit or miss whether or not we'll do it. If we have some really good luck, maybe we can pull it off and get here in time. But I don't think you people want us to shortcut a really fun archery pronghorn hunt or whatever we have in the bag there. Tomorrow, we find out about Montana antelope tags. I'm pretty sure everybody in this office who applied other than me is going to get one because they all applied for the archery tag except for me. So anyhow, thank you all so much, folks. Thanks for all of your kind comments here for Bo. Means a lot to them, means a lot to us. And I hope that all of you are healthy. This is a weird time. I've never seen anything like this in my 55 years. And I think of every one of you. I'm grateful for every one of you who watch and follow and comment and encourage us to go do these things. We're blessed. We live in the greatest country in the world. And when I see how many great people here on these comments send their prayers to Bo and Kirsten, it really tells me what kind of people we're lucky enough to have in our audience. And all of you make us very grateful for that. So thank you so much. Stay well, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, maybe in 1 week, but for sure in 2 weeks. Take care.